Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. And this one is going to be a good one. This edition, we'll be talking about Tottenham's 2-0 win at the Etihad Stadium, Manchester City 0, Tottenham Hotspur 2. Brennan Johnson with Spurs' first goal after 35 minutes and João Palhinha getting Spurs' second goal just before the half-time break, and Richarlison with an assist in the 35th minute. Spurs, at the moment, at the time of recording, are top of the Premier League table. Now, we are live on YouTube, live on Facebook and X, so please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. Now, we have got three very special guests today. Well, we've got part of the furniture, Craig Dearman, back with us. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, all good. I've had worse Saturdays. That's all I'll say. I've had worse Saturdays. It was what a start to the weekend. And as you say, currently top of the league. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, we'll get into it. Really looking forward to this one.
It's unreal because Thomas Frank, of course, has now managed Spurs 2 games in the Premier League. He's got off to the perfect start, 2 wins, 2 clean sheets. You can't ask for more than that. 5 goals scored. Also back with us, part of the furniture, is Ricky Norwood. Ricky, how are you?
Oh, my friend, buzzing. Absolutely buzzing. You know, sometimes when we have an early kickoff and it doesn't go our way, it ruins the whole weekend. You can't watch any more football. You don't look at your results. You don't look at Twitter. You don't look at Match of the Day. You don't look at TalkSport. You don't look at nothing. But today we can enjoy. What a start of the new era, the new Frank era with this Tottenham side. Super exciting. Great result. Can't wait to get in with you beautiful people on the panel and all you beautiful people around the world. Let's have it. Let's get in. Come on, you Spurs.
Also with us for the very first time is Charlotte Henry, journalist covering culture, media and sport. Charlotte runs the Addiction and the Spurs blog, lilywhitewoman.co.uk. Charlotte, great to have you here. I've been meaning to get you on for a very long time. And I'll tell you what a time to come on here for the first time, having beaten Manchester City 2-0. How are you?
I'm absolutely buzzing. I'm almost as excited as Ricky. You know, what a performance that was. This is what my debut brings, boys. This is the energy I'm bringing.
Brilliant. Well, great to have you here. Now, before I get your thoughts on the game, let's have a look at the match facts and stats. Manchester City with 60.9% of the ball to Tottenham's 39.1%. XG, City 1.51 to Tottenham's 1.02. Shots, City had 10 to Tottenham's 12. Shots on target, City had 4 to Tottenham's 5. Total touches inside the opposition box, City 33, Tottenham Hotspur 26. Goalkeeper saves, Trafford 3, Vicario 4. Fouls committed, City 7, Spurs 12. And corners, City 7, Tottenham Hotspur 2. As I mentioned, Spurs are currently top of the Premier League table. I know we're not going to get carried away, though.
No, we are.
Well, we might do. Some of us might. Craig, let's come to you first. Let's get your thoughts on the game.
Yeah. I mean, the game as a whole was just professional. We seemed to be in control of large parts of it. I just think it was a cool display, if that's the right word. We didn't seem panicked at many points. There was just that one thing I can remember, well, a couple of times, the Porro sort of header back where I can't remember the Man City player's name, escapes me, but he nearly slotted it round Vicario in the first half, but didn't come off. And then a bit of dramatic defending in the second half with a Van der Ven block. But apart from that, we looked fairly comfortable most of the game. And you know, you could argue, they were saying on the telly that City just didn't look at it. Well, we've seen previous games where opponents haven't played particularly well and we've lost a game, Champions League final, for example. You know, Liverpool didn't play well and we just played worse. But today we just went about our jobs and all the players went about their jobs. And I know Sarr got man of the match, but for me, Palhinha was superb today. I was watching him just for long periods in the game and he was just patrolling that area, doing the dirty work, doing the simple stuff, breaking up play, intercepting, tackling, and just laying the ball off. And of course, got his first goal for Tottenham as well. So just all in all, it's just a great performance. The defence looks solid. Richarlison looks like a player transformed. Midfield was absolutely fantastic. And, you know, everybody's saying last week that City are back. Well, we'd certainly done a number on them today. So it's just really good to see that amongst all the media hype about the Eze situation and everything else, and look, we still need players in this. Don't take that away. The club aren't getting away with that just yet, just because we've beaten Man City away. We still need players, but what a performance by Thomas Frank and the players, and putting us, there's been so much news surrounding Tottenham this week. It must have been quite difficult to even concentrate, especially for Thomas Frank, because there was so much noise. But they just went out there for 90 minutes today, got the job done, and 6 points. I don't know the stats behind it. I think that was the first away win for Spurs since February in the Premier League. The amount of times we've beaten City is quite simply unbelievable. We seem to be a massive bogey team for City, which is great. They must dread us coming to their place or even coming to ours, because we just seem to do a number on them all the time, or a majority of the time. So it's just great, absolutely great to see the players just seem to be enjoying their football, under Thomas Frank. And we seem to have a very together squad at the moment. So many good performances today. I'm just trying to think. You could almost name every member of the squad, but Kudus was brilliant again. I think he's going to be a huge player for Tottenham.
Yeah.
Bentancur was superb. Romero led well. I could go through the whole squad. Yeah, I'll let somebody else have a say now, but I'm so pleased with the way we've started this season. I'm very impressed with the way Thomas Frank started this season too.
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. Thomas Frank has just been talking about João Palhinha in the press conference. He said we had a lot of questions about transfers in the press conference yesterday, but we did sign two very good players, two top players in Mohamed Kudus and João Palhinha. Today, Palhinha, wow, sometimes you just need to get your confidence, and I still don't think he is fully fit as yet. Wow. As you rightly mentioned there, Craig, I think that you could go through the whole team. Every single player done their job today. The team seem very, very well drilled. Thomas Frank on the sidelines, he doesn't stop talking to his staff and his players. The communication is absolutely excellent. And as you rightly mentioned, the players look really, really happy. Even at half-time being 2-0 up at the Etihad, the players were patting each other on the back. I thought at that point, don't get carried away, because there is a big 45 minutes coming up in the second half. But, there seems to be so much togetherness. There seems to be so much communication going on. And this is a squad and a team that really wants to win. And, we seem to be very different in with having Christian Romero as captain as well. And we'll certainly come on to talk about that. Ricky, let's get your thoughts on today's win.
Oh, mate, for me, there's just so many good things to talk about. Not only are we unified, not only are we balanced, but I think that the win, that Europa Cup win, that Europa League win, has galvanized this team, has given them a bit of an edge, has given them a bit of a kind of some strength in their mentality. And you can see that they're working for each other. They want to play for each other. The fact that Frank has got kind of the structure right, and you can see, like Craig was saying earlier, or it might have been you, Chris, when we were just chatting there. But the fact that they were, Kudus was doubling up with Porro, and his defensive work was as good as his attacking work. You give him the ball, you can't get it off of him. Yeah. And when you look at Palhinha as well, first time in a very long time that we've bought a specific player of high quality and experience for a specific position. Do you know what I mean? First time in a very long time. And that shows you when you bring in a specialist like that, what a difference it can have to the side. I totally agree with what Craig was saying there earlier, man. Like, because Palhinha, the amount of little tackles, blocks, his presence is a nuisance. City couldn't get going. They couldn't get their rhythm going. And Pap Sarr, for me, wow, absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely everywhere. He never stops running. For me, a well-deserved man of the match. And, he didn't score today. Palhinha scored today. But he was instrumental in all of the good things that we've done, defensively and attacking-wise. The midfield themselves look solid. The back five, including Vicario, again, looks solid. Porro and Spence look like different players. When it comes down to the defensive side as well, they've taken up more responsibility. They're taking on the challenge head on. Romero and Van der Ven, we know how good they are as a partnership, and we know how much we miss them for very long periods of time last season. If them two can stay fit as well, oh my goodness, what a base that we've got to spring from, you know, to attack from. We're a different side. We're going to be upsetting other teams left, right, and centre, because I don't think anybody knows what's coming out of Tottenham. A lot of people were kind of predicting that we was going to go to a back three again, like we did against PSG, because we're going up against Man City. But we didn't do that. We done a 4-2-3-1 today. Last week it was a 4-3-3. You know, against PSG, some would say it was a 5-3-2 or a 3-5-2 that was in transition many a time. And so we've already seen multiple different formations, but also how hungry these players are to perform in whatever system they are asked to be playing in, whatever mission that they've been asked to go out there and succeed in. They're going at it, and they're not going at it as individuals. They're going at it as a unit, which is the biggest thing for me right now. You know, it's so exciting to see. And we know it's still early days, but it's so exciting to see that with only, 9-10 weeks amount of work where Frank's been in the door, whatever it's been now, you can see that the players are loving the new systems. They're loving the details. They're loving the instructions. They're loving the responsibility that have been put on their shoulders. And doesn't matter who we come up against, they believe in each other, the people that are standing beside them, left to right, and they believe in themselves. We've done so many good things against City today, not just nullifying, but to be able to take on their periods of attack, and when they did have good moments, but we kept those moments to be very far and few between. 20 minutes in the first half, I think, they looked really, really good. Marmoush was on it. Second half, the first 10 minutes in the second half, again, they came out to rectify the result and get back into the game. We held them off. We fought like Spartans, and we weathered that storm, and we pushed on, and got that clean sheet and the result over the line. What a performance today from Tottenham Hotspur. This is really exciting times. I know this is only game 2, game 3, including PSG, but wow, if this is the beginning and we get some more quality through the door, I don't know where we can go, but it's an exciting time for Tottenham Hotspur and every single fan around the world.
Ricky, I'm going to ask you that now, because we spoke about this off camera a couple of minutes ago, that when you get performances and results like this, particularly, and I'll add the PSG performance in there as well, to see how Thomas Frank sets up, to see how flexible he is in games, changing things up constantly, how important is it that the ball do get the players that he needs? Because when you have a manager, and I think it's fair to say that most of the fan base now are really on board with Thomas Frank. Those doubters, when he was appointed, I feel like a lot of people, after today's performance and result, there's going to be even more people on board with what he's trying to do. And I tell you what, in all the pre-season games that I've gone to, in that Burnley game last week and the game today, I tell you what, every single time I see Thomas Frank, I am more impressed with our head coach. I really, really am. And I feel like there is, a lot more days like this to come. But when we've seen in the last couple of seasons under Ange Postecoglou, when we had injuries, the squad really did suffer. You've mentioned there about, a couple more additions. I know we all say as Spurs fans, we need more in this squad. But surely, the board, everyone at the club, everyone connected to the club can surely see that a couple of players like Mohamed Kudus, who I'm sure we'll talk about at length during this podcast, unbelievable today. If you are without a player like that, for whatever reason, whether it's injury or squad selection or just tiredness, because you cannot play. We saw that under Ange last season. You cannot play every Premier League game. You cannot play every Champions League game and the cup games as well, because it just simply isn't possible. So how important is it that this squad is added to with real quality? Because like Thomas Frank said in there in the presser, João Palhinha, Mohamed Kudus, what a difference them two have made. But if you had a few more, what a difference it could make.
It's not just a few more, though, Chris, because we've done that in the past. It's the level of what they've gone.
It's the quality.
It's something that yourself and Craig have spoken about for hours on end. It's the level of quality. Now we've got youngsters in there that can fill out the squad and that can grow intermittently. But look at the difference it makes when you bring in a specialist in Paulinia, you know, somebody that knows his job, is happy, and he's not even fit yet. And look at that performance today. Look at the performance against PSG. Kudus, ever since he's come in, you know, has been a revelation on that right-hand side. Not just for his unpredictability, his improvisation, his attacking flair, his dribbles. It's his strength. It's his physicality. It's his will to work. It's his energy. It's his work rate. You know, there's so many things there, and it proves to you that if you go out there and you get the right profile and the right quality, what it can do. Now, if you're going to back any manager right now, look at what Frank's doing right now. Look at what Frank's doing right now. The one thing with Tottenham, it seems, is that we never really learn our lessons. When we make big mistakes as a club, we never really learn those lessons. You know, we could talk about Morgan Gibbs-White and Eze right now. We could have a list of failed transfers that have not come through the door. There's plenty of Spurs fans that are still waiting for Leandro Damio to turn up. Do you know what I mean? For how long we was linked with him for.
Paulo Dybala's on his way.
Dybala. We could go through it, right? We could go through it for ages, right? But right now, if anything is proven to you to go and spend your money in the right areas, to go and get what a manager needs right now, he's showing you. He's showing you exactly what he brings to the table. So I don't know how much more confidence the club need to go and spend that money, go and act like a proper club. You know, stop these embarrassing times. Stop us, because the league can't wait for us to be a joke. You know, I went to TalkSport a couple of weeks ago, just before, on the eve of the Premier League starting. And when I got to speak to Goldstein and Benty, Goldstein quickly chucked in a joke, right? He goes, let's talk about Tottenham, or you know what, let's laugh about Tottenham. And my response for everybody was, don't worry, mate, we beat you. Do you know what I mean? And which shut down the conversation.
They won't be laughing today, I can tell you that.
But this is it. This is it. There's many teams out there that really don't like Tottenham. We know that as Tottenham fans. There's many a media company that doesn't like Tottenham, and they enjoy to laugh and joke and for us to be the butt of the joke. You know, there's many a written press that want to do the same. And, you know, Morgan Gibbs-White and Eze have given them an opportunity to laugh at us again. But after today, they will not be laughing. After today, we are giving them more things to worry about, and that upsets them. That really upsets them. So can you go out there, put your money where your mouth is, go and get 2-3 big additions along the same profile, not just age, but profile, you know, experience, adaptability, quality, specificity in the areas that you're after. You know, if we're after a 10, go out there and get the best 10 that you can go and get. Do you know what I mean? Go out there and get the best left winger you can go and get if that's what you're after. If you want to go and get another centre back, go out and get the best that you can possibly get. There's no need to be penny pinching anymore. As businessmen in the club, the board, there's a lot of businessmen and women in that board, and it's all about investment, right? And they talk about risk of investment. There's very little risk right now when you look at what Thomas Frank is doing with the players that he's got at hand, what he's been given, and how he's using those that have been given. Yeah. So you give him what he's asking for right now. You go in there and you spend the extra 5-10 mil to go and get that quality. And where could we be? It could fulfill the promise of competing on all fronts, going for the Premier League and Champions League. And we're not going to get carried away and say that that's going to happen this year. But you give it, and you never know, because this Tottenham side, from what I'm seeing, is totally different. Mentality, heart, fight, ability, will to play, will to adapt. There's so many good things. So we as fans can only encourage that ball to go out there and act like a big club, go and act properly. If you've got a target, go and get them. I don't want to hear no rumors. Sorry, Chris, I know I love it. I do love a 60-second update, but I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear nothing until they're holding the shirt. You know, nothing. I've said many a time on this show, that when it comes down to transfers, the one that we're linked with the most, we're more than likely not going to get. I say it every single year. Same thing happened this year, even though we was that close to signing him. So, like the boss says, if you don't want to be with us, if you don't want to wear this badge on your shirt, if you're not 100% with Tottenham, then it's all right. Go play where you want to play, sunshine. Because I know if I had a choice between the Gooners and Tottenham, I know which way I'm going. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of how much money's on the table, I know which way I'm going. So all good in the hood. Everything happens for a reason in life. But let's go out there, stop the embarrassment, stop the jokes, and stop everybody from trying to ridicule and mock this Tottenham team, because there's so much to come from here. We're going to upset a lot of apple carts if you just go and do the right thing.
Charlotte, before we get your thoughts on the game, I just want to ask you about Thomas Frank. How are you feeling about Thomas Frank? Have you been impressed with him? Because like Ricky said there, and I felt exactly the same when we appointed Thomas Frank, that he will come in, he will get the best out of players. We saw him do it at Brentford in the 4 years in the Premier League era for him and them. And of course, with a couple of additions that we've seen, you know, first team players coming in, Mohamed Kudus and João Palhinha, you know, there is that thought, isn't there, amongst the Spurs fans that, you know, if we can get a few more signings in, this manager can do something special.
So my thoughts on Thomas Frank are actually quite linked to the game. So what I really like Thomas Frank at Brentford. I'd have had him in when they appointed Ange Postecoglou. I don't know if we'd have won the Europa League under Thomas Frank at that point, but I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have lost 22 league games under Thomas Frank at any point. So I was really pleased when he was appointed this summer. We won't repeat my thoughts on Ange and fired or not. It's in the past, but I'm very pleased that Thomas Frank is the manager of Tottenham Hotspur. Look at the job he did at Brentford. There's nothing to criticise. He's done brilliantly, and look how much trouble they're going to be in the minute he's left.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled that Thomas Frank is the manager of Tottenham. What I really liked about today that Ricky touched on when talking about that PSG performance is it seemed to me already that Thomas Frank had learnt from what happened against PSG. So I was really gutted about the PSG thing. Yeah, we drew 2-2 with them in 90 minutes. We didn't get the trophy. But what happened against PSG is we kept falling back and back and back, and it attracted too much pressure on us. So what did Thomas Frank do today? He made sure that didn't happen. Yeah, he brought on Danso in the last 5 minutes, which is fine. Love a bit of Super Kev to see us over the line. But what he didn't let happen was that pushing back and pushing back. He kept Palhinha on. He kept Bentancur on. He for 85 minutes, he kept Kudus on. He made sure we didn't get under too much pressure. And that shows to me a manager that can learn and can adapt. And that is very, very different to what we've had for the last 2 years at least. And actually before, if you think how stubborn Conte was as well, frankly, Frank clearly has this ability. Look, he's not completely making it up each game, right? He has his philosophy, he has his plans, and that's great. But he is adaptable, and he is clearly learning with every game about what goes on. And Palhinha, we've all praised him, and we will continue to, because I thought he was brilliant. I loved him at Fulham.
Yeah.
Was thrilled when he came in. I hope it carries on and we sign him permanently if things carry on the way they are. He made such a difference today. I think he's made Bentancur a better player already. I think we're seeing he's making Papa Massasar a better player already. It's made a huge difference. And, you know, Ricky again was talking about the profile of players. We've signed a grown-up. Like, I love having these kids come through. Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, they are wonderful, talented young players. But they need grown-ups, and João Palhinha is a grown-up, and he is making a huge difference. How Papa Massasar is still standing, I don't know. I thought we'd have to scrape him off the floor and onto the bus after that performance today. I don't know how. I want to know what that boy's resting heart rate is, because goodness me, his fitness levels are like nothing I've ever seen. Up and down, up and down. James Trafford is going to be seeing him in his dreams, his nightmares, what Sarr did to him today. So I'm thrilled with the way that midfield looks, and I'm thrilled with the way Thomas Frank is adapting and setting things up. It's not completely only worrying about the opposition, but he's not so entrenched in his ideas that he can't adapt and make things for each game. And that is really, really important. And it's really sort of grown up way of managing this team. And yeah, look, if I was a player, obviously I'd want to play for Spurs. And obviously I think Thomas Frank must be a pretty good manager. And we're seeing already, I think both you boys have mentioned it, like those players clearly are wanting to play for Frank already. They're clearly bought into it, right? Yes, winning games helps, but you can't put as much effort into the games as we've seen for a manager if you're just not interested. If you don't care 100%, you can't do what those guys did on the pitch today. And that says something about Frank's man management as well, which I think has to be really commended.
Charlotte, are you surprised in any way by the start under Thomas Frank?
I'm not surprised that he's a good manager because I've always thought he's a good manager. I'm slightly surprised we've managed to keep 2 clean sheets, which is quite the revelation, right? Well, I don't remember the last time I've seen us doing that. So I'm really pleased about that. I'm not surprised that Thomas Frank is a good, organised manager. I'd say I was surprised he was able to compete in the way he did against PSG, because my worry with him was that having managed Brentford very successfully by any of their stat criteria in the Premier League, that's very different to competing in the Champions League. And he showed that he could do that and organise a team for that. And he's shown today that he can learn from the bits that go slightly wrong. Like, it's not Thomas Frank's fault that Van der Ven and Matisse Tell missed penalties. It is his fault that we dropped back and conceded those 2 late goals, even against exceptionally good players. And therefore, it is also down to him that didn't happen today. And that you get huge credit for me for that.
Craig, how impressed have you been with Thomas Frank so far? Because, like I said earlier, I feel like we now looked a really organised team, very well drilled, and every single player knows their job, and every single player carried out their job absolutely perfectly today.
Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of learning from the PSG game today. I think Paulinho was in a better place physically than he was against PSG. He was absolutely knackered when he came off. I think the subs were spot on today. Obviously, Romero got a soft yellow card, and perhaps if we'd been 3-0 up, perhaps he would have even taken Romero off and brought Danzo on just in case Romero, got a second yellow. But did the sensible thing, took Richarlison off after his yellow. Solanke comes on. I just think the whole team, every player that come on today, every player that started the match today contributed. And I think Frank managed the game brilliantly. Been very impressed so far. In answer to your question, I think he's probably given them concise instructions. I think every player seems to know their job already. The way we fall back as well, when we press and press and press, when City had the goal, when the City goalkeeper had the ball, we pressed at the right times and then fell back. Just very organised, very tight in that middle. When City were attacking our goal, you could have thrown a blanket over the Spurs players in the middle. Haaland didn't get a touch a lot of the time. He had a couple of headers, admittedly, but this Erling Haaland, he's always going to get chances. Just the way we block them out, players throwing themselves in front of the ball, and that's all down to training by Thomas Frank. They all seem to know what they want, what he wants them to do, and it paid off today. So in answer to your question, I've been very, very impressed with how Thomas Frank sets up the team and how he drills the players so far. Yeah.
Craig, let's stay with you. Let's talk about the starting 11 today. Vicario, Pedro Porro, Van der Ven, Romero, Spence, Paulinho, Sarr, Bentancur, Kudus, Richarlison and Johnson. And the sub-bench today, Kinski, Danso, Tell, Gray, Bergvall, Vlskovic, Solanke, Odebear and Davis. When that starting 11 came out, were you surprised? Because I feel like a lot of people expected Thomas Frank to go over back 3.
Yeah, I was surprised. Exactly that. I thought we were going to start with a back 3 today, very similar to PSG. But he didn't. He went with a back 4, and just goes to show how much we all know, doesn't it? Because we beat City 2-0. So just the way he sets us up with that back 4. Obviously, if Danzo had come in, if it was a 3 at the back, slightly different formation with Paulinho and Bentancur, those 2 were pretty nailed on for me. Anyway, in my starting 11 that I had in my head. honestly thought we was going to go 2 up front, but obviously with the 4 at the back, we weren't never going to do that. Johnson on the left, Richarlison nailed on starter through the middle, and then obviously it's going to be Kudus on the right. So yeah, that's the only real surprise for me, was the fact that he didn't go 3 at the back, the fact we played 4. So the lineup itself, I was pretty, you know, I was, that's kind of what I was expecting if we was playing 4 at the back.
Ricky, let's come to you on the lineup. I feel like it's going to be very different or very difficult, should I say, in trying to predict what Thomas Frank is going to do in these games.
Yeah, and that's to our strength. I mean, just look at that. If half of the fan base or 70% of the fan base felt that we were going to go to a back 3 today, and most commentators and pundits were saying exactly the same thing. You know, we're going to set up the same way as we set up against PSG. Well, if we can't predict it, how can an opposition predict it? You know, and that is to our strength. When you look at the midfield as well, you know, last week we had Archie Gray and Bergvall in that midfield, and then this week we've got, you know, Bentancur and Paulinho. Not only are we shaking it up, you know, we're not running players into the ground right now. We are relying on our squad. But we're playing the right players at the right time for the right mission at hand. And with a Frank plan that you don't know what's coming, I think that's a massive, massive strength to our bow. You know, when people, you know, who we got next? Bournemouth, right? So Bournemouth are going to look at Burnley, they're going to look at PSG, and they're going to look at Man City, and they're not going to know who to mark, how to set up, who to watch, what our game plan is. Are we going to be looking for more crosses? Are we going to be looking for more integrated play? You know, short passes and quick passes and high press. They don't know. They ain't got a clue. They haven't got a clue, and nor do we right now. Nor do we right now, which is a massive strength, not only to us, but to that team, and for everybody that's trying to predict or try and work out a game plan to nullify our strengths or nullify what we're bringing to the table. It always goes to pot when it comes down to, you know, 2:45 on a Saturday afternoon, because it's only at that point that the opposition find out what formation we're doing and roughly try and work out something on the fly. It's exciting times. It's exciting times. It can go 2 ways when you do this, right? You can go adaptable and keep changing, and the players can lose focus and go, oh, what are we doing here? Because like one week we're defending, next week we're up front, like that. What are we doing here? And you could have that, but the one thing that I noticed, especially at PSG, because of the drinks breaks, there were like 2 or 3 drinks breaks throughout that game. And every single time that they went to the sidelines, Thomas Frank was there with the tactics board, and he's like, right, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. But the thing that I saw was the hunger in every single player's eye, the focus. You know, not one of them were sipping and looking at the sky or looking at the crowd or anything like that. They were all in on every single word that Thomas Frank was saying, and what the coaches were saying, and what the next phase of play is, and what the next mission is, and what the next, do you know what I mean? Like what the next tactic is, whatever the case may be. They look hungry for it. They look like they're enjoying it. And I tell you what, as well, they're looking like they're enjoying a clean sheet as well. Do you know what I mean? Like after one thing being flamboyant and going forward, but you can see with Romero and Van der Ven at the back, and Porro and Spence. And Spence, again, immense. I think this guy keeps going from strength to strength every single week. I'm so happy that he signed a new deal. Look at that. You know, some say Jed Spence redemption, right? So, do you know, there's been so many of those. And it's really exciting times. You know, Spence is going to end up pushing for an England spot without a shadow, because his energy, his flair, attacking, defending, doesn't matter who he's up against, you know, he's ready to take on that challenge. And majority of the time he does very, very, very well. So it's just exciting times, man, because nobody knows what we're going to come out with, including us, until we see it on the day. And like I say, you give the man more tools to play with. We've got more options, and we've got more adaptability. You know, we've got more ways to change and to mess up an opposition. So give the man what he needs, And you know, we could all be singing Johnson LA in a plant pot very, very soon. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's have it. Who knows what, you know? And about getting carried away as well. Don't worry, you know, I say this, but I'm always one to get carried away. And enjoy the win. Enjoy the damn win. Enjoy what we done right today. Enjoy what we done right last week that we built on today. You know, and highlight the goods. Don't worry. We all know as Tottenham fans, there's going to be dark days where we're going to have to sit here and critique and go through a bad performance and pull it to pieces and kind of pull players out and pull tactics out and criticize and look at the things that we're not doing so well. But right now, we're doing really well. Right now, we're doing excellent, and there was a lot of Tottenham fans that were nervous for today. I know we've got a great reputation
because you know that City team. Look at that bench.
Yeah, incredible.
Exactly, right? Exactly. But we've got a great reputation up there. But they have signed players, you know, that I've wanted for age. That they signed Marmoush in January. Cherky I wanted. Reinders I wanted. You know, these are players that I think are absolutely dynamite. That Pep's coming for revenge because he's missed out on the title last year. He wants to make sure that, you know, he's in and about it and people are talking about him as the best thing since sliced bread again. Today, he's got questions to ask. Today, that his squad have got questions to ask, you know, not us. So enjoy the win, man. Big it up, wear your shirt, watch match of the day, watch everything going. You can do it.
I'm going on a night out with Ricky. I'm loving this. Where are we going tonight, Ricky? I'm loving this.
Let's have it. Let's go. As long as we've got a couple of bottles, Shah, we'll be absolutely fine, sweetie.
See you there, mate. But there is one thing I slightly disagree with, which is how much we like overstate this adaptability and the change. If you think about it, he hasn't changed that much between Burnley and Man City. He's just brought in the grown-ups. He's brought in the two more grown-up midfielders. But the shape was basically the same, right? Which, and like I say, I think that's learning from what happened in the last 10 minutes at PSG. And like, you know, you have to respect that. But I think we can slightly overstate the adaptability because also the one thing you're right about, Ricky, is that you can't be changing it every game and players don't know what they're doing. It doesn't look like there's a plan. There clearly is a plan, right? He clearly knows how he wants a football team to play and he knows how he wants this group of players to play. He's just not so stubborn. He's not Ad Postecoglou or Russell Martin where he only got one way to do things. He can tweak it about a bit, but it's not, you know, throwing your cards in the air in every game, right? Like, there's clearly a best 11. Today, would you all agree that today, what started was the best 11?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So I think we'll probably see pretty similar against Bournemouth at home, right? It won't be that much different. So I think there will be a consistency and a plan with that adaptability that we're all really pleased to see.
I think as well, sorry to jump in, Chris, I think as well, when we started under Nuno, I know we don't like talking about Nuno on this channel, but 2021, we started with a 1-0 win at City and 1-0 beat Wolves, I think. And yeah, we had 6 points after 2 games, but the style of play and the way we went about those games is entirely different now, you know. And obviously, Ange Postecoglou's first season was a bit different. First game against Brentford, we drew, didn't we? So it just feels different to me.
I agree with that.
The communication. I know, you know, some people think I'm like a broken record, you know, in the past couple of podcasts, but honestly, the level of communication between the manager and the players, and it's not just the manager, it's the coaching staff as well. You see Andreas Georgeson, the set-piece coach, he's in the technical area a lot. And like you said, Ricky, whenever there is a break in play, Thomas Frank does not hang around at all. It is within a couple of seconds. He's like, come over. And he is talking to those players and the direction and, you know, just telling the players, you know, just telling them again exactly what he expects, exactly what he wants them to do. And they know their job. And I feel like that is a real change under Ange Postecoglou. And I'm not going to sit here, and like I said last week, I'm not going to sit here dissing the manager because he delivered us a European trophy. So I'm just saying about what is different and what has changed at our football club for the better. And it's interesting, if you watch the embargoed press conference last night, Thomas Frank said that there are always 3 areas where he tries to win the game. And, one of those areas last week was on crosses. He was, wanting to get crosses into the box. And of course, it proved that 2 crosses for Richarlison last week, won us the game very comfortably. Charlotte, on the starting 11, you mentioned there about you think that is the best starting 11 for Thomas Frank. I know we'll come on to talk about the transfer window at the end of the podcast, but when we saw under Ange last season, when we had injuries, even the season before under Ange as well, we were all saying about the depth. When you look at the bench today, that depth is a little bit of a problem because it is not, you cannot play this same way, intensity, the pressing. We'll talk about Richarlison's pressing in a second, but you cannot play that same way week in, week out, particularly when these Champions League games are coming. How important is the transfer window for you?
Yeah, look, I think we have 13, 14 very good players. But look, you always need more depth, right? We're also, it's not just about having one good player. You need to, if you're going to compete in the Champions League, you need 2 good players in pretty much every position, right? We are still only a couple of injuries away from a real problem. And I think that remains the case. But I think there are a group of 11, 12, 13 very good players there. And can you improve them? Yeah, Ricky's right. You got to back the manager. You have to. This guy's proven within a couple of league games that he can do something, and he deserves that backing and deserves, some better improvements. But there isn't much that's wrong with that starting 11, I don't think. But it's not realistic to pretend in a league season, in a Champions League season with domestic cups, it's not realistic to pretend everyone can stay fit. You have to make sure those gaps are filled. It's not possible. And it's also not possible, as you say, Chris, for Pape Matar to run like that every game and not have a break. Like, it's not possible. Richarlison, by the end, wasn't putting James Trafford under pressure because he must have been exhausted. Luckily, we had Solanke who came on and did pretty well. But, what do we need? Well, we'll come on to transfer windows, but there are a couple of upgrades we need. And look, you can't compare our bench when you see who's coming onto the City bench, right? They're bringing on Phil Foden and Rodri, for goodness sake. Like, what are we going to do about that? But you can lift the level of the bench. But I think we have lifted the level of the starting 11 already.
Charlotte, let's come on to the match instance. Now, after 9 minutes, Pedro Porro had a free kick, hit it at the wall, and then the rebound, he hit it at the side netting. And then a minute later, he headed back to Vicario. A bit of a mix-up there. Marmoush was in. It was very, very nearly 1-0 to Manchester City. What do you make of Pedro Porro today, and what have you made of him in these last few months?
I thought Pedro Porro's crossing was as good as I've ever seen it today. I thought his crossing was really good and probably deserved someone to get on the end of it at different points. I thought his crossing was really good. Free kick, the first one was poor. The second shot was pretty decent shot, actually. Look, he slightly has a defensive mistake in him, but I think the defending has got better. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but he doesn't look quite the chaotic mess in defence as he did previously. So I think he's looking really good. I think the back 4 is a unit. Back 5 if you want to throw Vicar in there. I think he's looking a pretty solid unit. Look, they've kept 2 clean sheets, right? You can't really knock it so far. They will concede goals. Of course we did. We were slightly lucky with a couple of instances today. But Porro is contributing to a back 4 that is looking pretty stable and pretty organised at the moment.
Craig, what Charlotte said there, the back 4 or the back 5, as Charlotte said, there does look to be that calmness now. And Romero as well, as captain, he seemed to be very calm, because there was an instant today where he could have very easily gone in, started an argument, and he was the calm one, which it did actually really make me laugh. He was the calm one in that situation now.
Yeah. I mean, it is easier, obviously, when you've got the upper hand on the team and you're leading, and it's a lot easier to curb that over enthusiasm, probably. But I think that because we're sitting a little bit deeper and Mickey van der Ven's not having to make 100-yard sprints back, I just think they're playing more like a traditional sort of defence, aren't they? They're not playing right up on the halfway line all the time. And don't get me wrong, I love that sometimes under Ange, that gung-ho approach. But the overriding thing meant certainly in the Premier League, it didn't work. It wasn't sustainable. whether it wasn't sustainable with our players or whether it's just not, you just can't do it in the Premier League. I don't actually know the answer to that, but they certainly looked more. That, you know, there were certain occasions last season when they looked out on their feet, our defence, and they didn't, because they're not expected to run as much, run back and forward and back and forward. It's just a more traditional approach to defending, and they just looked more compact and they looked controlled. I mean, City a couple of years ago were the best team in the world, you know, and I'm sure they'll get back to those levels, but we controlled that game. Like I said earlier, we controlled that game in large spells. So I'm not surprised Romero looked calm, because he knew, like probably we all knew, that we were going to win that game after 80 minutes. That is unusual for me, and probably unusual for a lot of Spurs fans. Even on 80 minutes, when you're 2-0 up, you think, well, you know what we do sometimes. But today, I didn't get that. I was actually quite confident we was going to go on and win that game. I just couldn't see City getting back into it. So, you know, I might be in the minority there, but I just thought we controlled the game so well and performed so well that we fully deserved the 2 points, and we just went on to, the 3 points, and just went on to win the game. I was quite confident in that.
Yeah, I think
you know what though, gents and ladies, with Romero and Porro, there's a couple of things. I think Romero's reputation is, you know, as a hothead. Now, we've seen him lose his head. We've seen him lose his temper at times. And yes, that is in him. Yes, that fire is in him. But there's been so many times where he hasn't picked up a yellow card. And he shouldn't have picked up a yellow card today. Very, very soft yellow card that he picked up
massively.
Today. You know, so same as Porro, right? I don't think Porro's yellow card was a yellow card either, right? But people will have this narrative about him being a hothead and steaming in. But there's been many a time where I remember when there was a point where he had 4 yellows, and if he got a 5th, then he was out for a couple of games. And he went like 8 to 10 games without getting a yellow card. He's got that calmness and assuredness in him. I think with the new contract and with the armband, I think that just levels it up a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? It gives him more responsibility. So when he does go to gun, you know, there's part of him that's like, okay, 1 minute, I'm representing everybody here. And there is that. So I think it's just the evolution of Romero in this side, and giving him the armband is definitely giving him an extra responsibility and an extra kind of weight on his shoulders to represent not only himself but the side and the club properly, which is fantastic, right? But this reputation that he's always getting yellow cards or he's always being suspended. Look, I'm not saying it never happens, but there's so many times that he is controlled. There's so many times that he will go in, you know, aggressively, but it won't be a yellow card offense, you know. And so people, pundits and such, they like to harp on it, but it's not really been there for a long time that he's just going to go out there and get a rash red card. Now, we know it's in him, but there are more. I've seen more calm days. I've seen more professional performances from him than the rash ones. We have rash moments, don't get me wrong. And then with Porro, I think that he's been, like you said there, about us being solid, Craig. I think last year, there was so many times where a through ball or a ball over the top caught us short, right? It's because we pushed so many up, and Porro was one that always went high up. He was an extra winger, the same as Udogie or Spence that was on the left. This inverted wing back where the majority of our players was up there. So if we got counted on with one through ball or one ball over the top, then suddenly we're in trouble. Then Porro's up the field, and you know, and we was almost, our defense was almost like a W. Do you know what I mean? There were easy breaks in there, and high quality sides found those passes and found those gaps and exploited them against us. This year there isn't that. There is a consistent unity between the lot of them, between that back four and Vicario. And Vicario is being used as an extra player. You can see that. You know, it's not just a pass back to the goalkeeper. They're passing back to him like he was an extra defender almost. They're using him as a player. So there's so much solidity, and they work on their lines as well. We see that in training on YouTube and when they put out the training videos. And Chris, I know that you spend a lot of time pre-kickoff looking at their warm-ups and looking at the drills. And, you know, obviously you've been in pre-season. And one thing that I've noticed as well is that they're very disciplined on their lines. You know, they're watching each other. They move together. And I think that is helping not only the defense as a whole, but players like Romero and players like Porro, where we can now utilize their strengths. And with Porro, his defending has got better year in, year out that he's been at Tottenham. You know, I think he's learned the league. I think he sees how aggressive it is. He's a top professional, an energy box, another one that never stops running, never stops going. You know, you touch wood, he doesn't get injured. But last year he didn't. He was ever reliable for us to turn up and be in that starting 11. And I think, again, with someone like Thomas Frank, that has gone, okay, cool. We can see your strengths. We can see your weaknesses. Let's work towards that. Let's play towards that. I think it's working for us at this present time. And I think that the defense, especially with someone like Paulinho in there as well, that is also covering gaps. You know, like I said about that W last year, but he is also covering these gaps. So we do look.
It's such an important point.
Throughout. Say again, Charlotte.
It's such an important point about Paulinho. Like, we've got 4 or 5 very good defenders, but they can't keep being exposed constantly. Like, you need a proper defensive midfielder in front of them. And you're so right, Ricky, that having Paulinho there is actually like helping to look after them.
We've been crying out for this type of player for a long time. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Charlotte, let's come to you. Now, on 12 minutes, I wrote on my notes here, Richarlison, causing problems, pressing, exceptional. I tell you what, let's go back to even the Europa League success. You know, so under Ange Postecoglou, his performance in that Europa League final, I said after that game that was probably his best performance in a Spurs shirt. Then a lot of people said exactly the same thing after the Super Cup final. And then last week, scoring those goals. Today, he's pressing and just making it really, really difficult for that Manchester City team today in a lot of ways. He has been exceptional, hasn't he?
He's been absolutely exceptional. He's obviously buzzing for the World Cup. The boy's excited to get to the United States and put on his Brazil shirt. Well, and it's helping Tottenham at the moment, and that's great. Because it's not just about the amazing finishes, is it? Like the running and the pressing and the harrying of James Trafford and the people around him was brilliant. Yeah. It was brilliant. And it's also good, I think, I don't know if you guys agree, for Solanke, who I really like, I think he's a really good centre forward, to have some pressure on him as well. Plus, it's also meant we haven't had to rush Solanke back from being injured. He's been able to grow back into it because Richarlison's playing so well. It's really contributing in so many ways the way Richarlison is playing at the moment.
Charlotte, let's move on to the game again. After 13 minutes, a good move for Manchester City. Marmoush had a shot, Vicario saved. And then Vicario saved from Marmoush again 5 minutes later. Vicario, in all honesty, didn't have a great deal to do today. But when he did get called upon, he dealt with it extremely well. Now, my only down point about Vicario today is that he tried to go long a couple of times and he kicked long and it went straight through to James Trafford. I think it happened twice. James Trafford even done it and it went through to Vicario where he apologised. But where he's going long, surely that's got to change at some point. But what did you make of Vicario today and the saves that he made?
I made of Vicario what I make of him most weeks, which is shot stopping is really very good.
Yeah.
His distribution is sometimes quite good, sometimes a bit scrappy. And there was one bit of play, you might come onto it later, where we nearly played ourselves into a whole load of trouble in the second half. So there was a couple of quite poor bits of distribution from Vicario, but that save that you're highlighting really was him at his best. It was really, really, a really big save where we really could have gone 1-0 down quite early on.
Craig, anything to add on Vicario?
No, I agree. He didn't have tons to do today. But he was what he did do. Yeah, I mean, you could be really picky, but I just thought he did okay. He did well. He didn't concede any goals, did he? So he must have done all right. But then again, I thought the defence come back to that. I thought the defence looked absolutely solid. I've sung Paulinho's praises, and I will continue to do so. But because, as you say, Chris, he's that player we've missed over the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, I know Højbjerg wasn't everybody's biggest, weren't fans of Højbjerg, but We seem to have got an upgrade on Højbjerg with Paulini. Once he gets fully fit, I still don't think he's fully fit. And let's hope he does stay fit, because I think he's going to be a huge player for us this season.
Yeah, I think it was the chance you mentioned, Charlotte, after 28 minutes. It was such a big chance for Erling Haaland. Marmoush, great ball to him. And then Vicario out, making himself big, and made a really good save. A minute later, the Spurs fans were fuming, and as well as the fans were in the away end, with the referee. This was the point where Romero was very calm. Craig, what did you make of the referee today? Because the Spurs fans in the away end did seem to moan a lot about the referee's performance today.
Like they did they? Were they moaning about him a lot? Did you say,
Yeah.
or wasn't?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
And you know, another point, which I found a bit strange, is I counted 3 instances where a Manchester City player had a throw on, and it was a foul throw. And the referees do not pick up the foul throws. You know, they can say, look, a Premier League player. I know it's quite embarrassing that a Premier League player takes a foul throw, but it does happen. It should be picked up on. Yeah,
and that you're dead right. I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was one. I think it must have been the second half. It was an abysmal throw on the far side. And 100. If that was over a park, that the referee would have given it, a foul throw. Yep. And you're dead right. I just cannot believe. I don't know whether they think they shouldn't be blowing for foul throws because these are professional footballers, or for some bizarre reason. I don't get it. But that was dreadful. He just threw it there. It wasn't over. Anyway, yeah, we could harp on about that. I hope they clamp down on that. But it doesn't seem to be one of the edicts that they're looking to but, that's their job at the end of the day. I don't think the referee was brilliant today. Both ways, to be fair. I thought there was one tackle on a Man City player. I can't remember who it was. It was a pretty, I think it was Bentancur on one of their players. Totally took him out, and it wasn't given. I thought, blimey, how's he not given that? But yeah, it didn't have a brilliant game. But then again, when you win a game, you tend not to moan about the referee as much, which surprises me, that the fact the Spurs fans were moaning about the referee, actually. So he must have been pretty bad.
I thought he was quite poor.
Yeah, he wasn't. I must admit, in my opinion, he didn't do tons and tons wrong. I don't think he was absolutely horrendous, because it wasn't something on my mind. I was going to come on here and talk about the ref thinking, God, he had a shocker, but it weren't his best game. Let me just say that. And he'll probably look back on it, if referees look back on their performances and think, yeah, I got that wrong. So yeah, but it don't matter. We won the game. None of his decisions cost us the game, which is great.
Yeah, but Craig, I think he was giving out cards like he was working for moonpig.com, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not a sponsor, but my goodness,
if they want to sponsor the channel.
But some of them, I was just like, is this guy all right? Like,
the Romero one.
Yeah, the Romero
one was horrendous. I don't get that. Do you know what? And that's really interesting, Rick, actually, because if Romero's never a yellow, right? So why is VAR not getting involved in that? Because if Romero had gone on and got another yellow, he'd been sent off when he shouldn't have had the first one, right? So that's what I don't understand about VAR. Why can't they just say to the referee, no, do you know what, you got that wrong? And I know I'm not talking about him going to the monitor and blah, blah, blah. VAR should turn around and say, actually, you got that one wrong. It's actually a technical decision. It's a factual decision. Next break in play, wipe the yellow card off and we move on, because I think that can be bad. But then again, are you re-refereeing the game? And it's the game we all love. So it's difficult. It's difficult. It's not in the rules, as you say. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Ricky, let's come to you now. About, I think it was 34th minute. Andreas Georgsson, the set piece coach, he was in the technical area. And he was just about to say to Jed Spence what he wanted to do with a throw-in, and there seemed to be a bit of mixed words because Jed Spence took the throw-in really quickly, and the Spurs bench wanted him to take his time a little bit. And then a minute later, Van der Ven and Jed Spence had a bit of a mix-up, which led to a Manchester City chance. Luckily, they overplayed the ball and it went out of play. And then Van der Ven and Spence had a few mixed words. Now, managers often speak about fine margins. We've heard Thomas Frank saying about the 3 key areas. They seem to be very controlling on what they want the players to do and at certain times. And set pieces are very, even throw-ins are very, very important to Thomas Frank and the coaching staff.
Yeah, and you know what? They will learn from it. You can see that they're the one thing that I think every Tottenham fan can see is that whatever game that we've played previous, ever since we've started playing competitive games, so since the Super Cup, right? You can see that every time that we have a performance, that the coaching staff, they're going back and they're analysing it and they're working on it. Charlotte mentioned it there, earlier on about PSG and us kind of dropping back so deep to allow them to score those 2 goals in that game. And we didn't do that today. Charlotte made that point earlier. So you can see that the coaching staff are definitely looking back, analysing, learning, and then giving those lessons to the players. So if that was part of it today, that's okay. I'm happy that Spence and Van der Ven were having mixed words, and I'm happy that Spence and the coaching staff were having mixed words, because there is part of the game where you've got to trust your players, right, to make a decision. So if Spence felt that the quick throw-on was going to be more beneficial to us, then hanging him up on that, or confusing him, or giving him too much to think about there, can lose the momentum, can lose the opportunity that Spence saw. So you have to have some element of trust of the 11 players that are out there to go out there and make decisions. It can't just be formulaic and robotic. But at the same time, the mistake that happened with Van der Ven and Spence, you can look at that and kind of go, okay, cool, this is what happens if we don't do this. This is what happens. This is the trouble that we can come under if we don't move the ball, or if we don't make a quick decision, or if we don't follow the plan that has been put in the changing room. So I think all of these are learning elements, and especially it's still very early in the Thomas Frank reign. 3 competitive games. Thank goodness Frank's had a pre-season, but 3 competitive games, and they're still learning, they're still adapting, they're still going to be finding those 1% and tweaking certain moments to get even more out of the game. I think it's all healthy, mate, right now. I don't think it's a bad thing that they're having little arguments or little niggles. That means that they care. That means that it matters to me, especially from the players and the coaching staff. Every little thing matters. So for someone like Jed Spence, who done tremendous last year, his breakout season last year, and kept going from strength to strength, there were times where I came on here and spoke about him switching off at moments where we conceded goals. There was times where, he lost the ball high up the field last year and then allowed the opposition to counter, and he didn't track back, or he didn't do certain things. But this year, they're going from strength to strength. And you can see that these little moments, I think, are positive, and especially to have them early in the season so that they can now work on them, and they can now put them to bed, and they can now keep moving forward and keep growing as a side.
I've always said when people are talking is a positive thing, not necessarily a negative thing. Ricky, let's stay with you, because we're going to talk about the first goal. Richarlison, excellent work from him, and Brennan Johnson again, ole. I tell you what, that's never ever going to leave us, is it? But Richarlison, I know we've spoken a little bit about Richarlison already, but how impressed have you been with his work rate? Because to put this cross in for Brennan Johnson, and I know a lot of people say, oh, Johnson only scores goals at the back post, but this one was a little bit different.
I don't care how Johnson scores goals as long as he's scoring goals. Some people say all he does is score goals. I don't care. It's the hardest thing to do in the game. And we're actually developing a game plan that works to Johnson's strengths as well. We've got Kudus out on the right-hand side, who can dribble, who can hold up the ball, who can battle, who can fight, who can drop back, who can, obviously advance the ball as well through dribbling or whatever the case may be, his improvisation. But then you've got Johnson at the back stick, ready to tap it in, ready to drill it in, ready to score the goals that we need. For me, Richarlison is a totally different player, Chris. I mean, it's like we've signed a new player, and I know that's an old trope, but it really is for me. I've literally, in the last 3 competitive games, the Europa League, I felt he done well, but I didn't know how long that was going to last. But from Super Cup to Burnley to today, I see the vision. I see why we bought him now. I didn't see that before. I see not just the goals or his strength. And I know this might sound funny, but it's the way in which he's running right now. He's running on his toes. He's running in rhythm. He's running in sync. Whereas before I felt he was flat-footed or heavy or clumsy on the ball. Whereas now there's, and maybe this is to do with fitness as well. Maybe he's finally fully fit for us. And we're seeing the best out of him, and we're seeing what he brings to a number 9 position in the Tottenham side. And again, Frank is working towards his strength. He's working towards bringing the best out of him, and I'm so pleased to see that from Richarlison. I was at my wit's end with him come towards the end of the season, my friend. If I'm really, really honest, you know, all of the injuries, you know, he had his mental health stuff as well. Yep. There were just times where he was out and he couldn't be relied upon. He'd come on, set up a goal and get injured, you know, through passing the ball. And I was just like, what is going on here? Really, what is going on? I didn't see what he brought to a Tottenham side until that Super Cup, until Burnley, and until today. He's kept it consistent. He's kept building on it. And he looks like a very dangerous number 9 up there. He looks like somebody that the defenses are going to be quaking in their boots about, as well as the goalkeepers, because that high press, the aggression, the little niggle tackles, and as well as him being able to do his job, which is, you know, to quote Roy Keane, and I've said it many times, that's all I've wanted Richarlison to do, is do his job. And I've said on here as well, the amount of times that he's been one-on-one on goal, and you know, my heart will tell me that he's going to miss. I don't feel like he's going to score. Not like Sonny would. You know, you get Sonny going in one-on-one, and 9.5 times out of 10 he's scoring, and you can feel it, you know, from the moment that he touches the ball. There's been many a time that I haven't felt that way about Richarlison, but wow, what a difference. What a new, like, a new player, a player reborn. And it's very exciting times to now have 2 senior centre forwards up there that can not only hold the ball up, but can bring other people into play and can be dangerous and can score a goal. So, my goodness, I really hope that it continues. I really hope Frank and the coaching team and the medical staff keep him fit, keep him firing, because man, I'm excited to see what could come from him now. You know, before he was on my sell list. Now he's not. You know, now if they were to sell him right now, I'd be wondering what else that they're going to bring in. Yes, there are other centre forwards out there, but right now, man, like, I'm so happy with what Richarlison is bringing to the table, and you know, how he's developing, how he's growing, and how he's becoming an important part of the jigsaw when it comes down to the starting 11 and the game plan when we go up against big teams, little teams, medium teams, whatever teams come our way. You know, it's really exciting times.
Charlotte, just a quick yes or no. Was Richarlison on your list to sell in the summer?
No.
It wasn't?
No. I think it's quite hard. Well, it depends who you get in is the real answer. If you can I think it's quite hard to upgrade, but he wasn't the priority for me to move on. But I think everything Ricky has just said is true, that he's really gone up a level, seems to be engaged. He's obviously a popular member of the squad as well. The others seem to really like him.
Yeah.
So I think he's really good. It makes me even more annoyed about the nonsense this week. What was that Richarlison was suddenly part of a deal for Eze? I don't know what on earth that was. But you know, the fact that he's assisted, we know he can score goals. I think he really is contributing. So I'm pleased that they didn't, you know, do something with a Saudi Arabian club or whatever, because not only have you got to sell, you've got to think how you're going to upgrade. And you know, he is a Brazilian international. You've got to be a bit careful what you think you can upgrade that with.
Of course, Brennan Johnson put the ball in there on 35 minutes, but the offside flag very soon went up. It went to VAR, and VAR said here, VAR checked the referee's call of no goal for Tottenham Hotspur and established that Richarlison was in an onside position in the build-up and recommended that the goal was awarded. Charlotte, talk to me about Brennan Johnson's finishing, because this is a player that finished our top goal scorer last season under Ange Postecoglou, got the winning goal in the Europa League. I know some people will still say that it was Luke Shaw's own goal. We're saying Brennan Johnson. It's Brennan Johnson's goal. So, of course, another goal for him today. He often gets criticised about his overall game. How can Thomas Frank get a little bit more out of him? What more do you want to see from him?
I don't really understand Brennan Johnson. Like, I don't understand what's happening. Like, it was a great finish. Maybe Trafford will think he should have done better. But the truth is, he's hit it quickly. He's hit it hard. He's hit it on target. That's quite a lot of the work done for scoring a goal. It was a great run to get there as well. So it is a good finish from Brennan. But I don't understand what else he's doing. I do think there was a few occasions actually where he ran back quite hard and deserves a bit of credit for his tracking back. But as a general rule, I can't get my head around him as a player at all. But his finishing obviously is good because he's, 2 for 2 in this season, etc., etc., etc. All the stats you've just railed out. So it's a very hard one to get your head around. It's normally the point where I start being particularly critical and rude about him that he tucks it in. So I'm going to start a bit earlier criticising him, I think.
Craig, can I ask you about Brennan Johnson? Because the finish last week, the finish today, the criticism last season, despite him finishing our top goal scorer, if I'm completely honest, I feel like Brennan Johnson, his finishing does actually get better.
Yeah, it does. And, it's hard to be critical of somebody who scores so many goals. And I don't care whether they're tap-ins or not. A goal's a goal, If he's not doing it, if he's playing in a role where he's got to do defensive work and we're getting ripped apart down that side, then, you've got to ask questions. You've got to say, well, his work rate's got to be better. But when a player's scoring goals, I mean, I'm probably a bit protective of forwards to a degree because, I don't. It's like the goalkeeper. I'm not going to mention. It's like the goalkeepers union, isn't it? My son's a goalkeeper, and whenever I criticise a goalie, not even in the Spurs match, when I say, "Oh, keeper should have done better there," he's always coming back and saying, "No, that wasn't the keeper's fault. That was the defence's fault." So it's difficult because when somebody is such a good finisher, a natural finisher, he is a natural finisher. It's difficult to be critical of him, but if he just improves that little bit defensively, which I think he will, and he does, then I haven't got many problems with Brennan Johnson. I think Brennan Johnson gets a bit of a hard run and a hard deal, a tough deal sometimes from the Spurs fans because he scores goals. He does score goals, and as you say, he's a top finisher, a top scorer last year. So yeah, I think we need to give the boy a bit of slack because like 2 in 2 now. You can't argue with that. And he's not the centre forward. So fair play to him.
Craig, you know what? You know who he reminds me of? If you remember Jermaine Defoe never used to track back, right? You used to have to leave him up there as almost like a floater. And everybody else done the work and just get the ball to him and he'd bang it. It feels similar. I'm not going to, compare him to Jermaine. I love Jermaine Defoe, by the way, but I'm not going to compare him to Jermaine. But it's almost very similar in the sense that someone on the left-hand side who is underestimated, right, by other teams. Other teams are not going to be like, right, we need to mark Brennan Johnson. It's going to get to that stage. But right now, people are more worried about Richarlison, Kudus, and whatever else is happening in our side. The majority of the time, he's overlooked, underlooked, and he can almost be a ghost at that back post, almost somebody that you forget about until the moment of danger, and then you're like, oh my God, Brennan's got the ball and he threw on goal and it's a goal. So I think that with Frank right now, you saw the goal last week where Sarr put him through. Now he didn't have much to do in the game last week, but you put him through with a nice through ball where people have forgotten about him the majority of the game, and he goes on to score. And that was last week. And then this week, he's been there and at the right place at the right time, back stick. Soon as Richarlison's got the ball, he's looked up, known where Brennan's going to be. Again, they've half forgotten about him, Man City, and he gets to get in there like the ghost and score again. So I think again, right now, Brennan's and the underestimating Brennan is almost an advantage to us. And yes, of course we want more. Of course we want more trickier, more dangerous players and stuff like that. Someone that does more throughout the side, up and down. Like somebody like Kudus on the left-hand side I think everybody would be happy with. But right now, we're using the strengths of our squad rather than going, why ain't you doing that? We're making sure that somebody else is doing it. We're making sure that Jet Spence and Paulinho are then covering the left-hand side so that Johnson can be free to do what he needs to do. And then when there is extra time that we need to defend, he's getting back there and he's trying. Do you know what I mean? He will improve. But the most hardest job in the game, especially in the Premier League, is to score a goal. So if he's got that in the bag, I think the rest we can allow, and we can allow him to work on and to improve as the season goes on.
Do you know as well, right? We've got more wins in the Premier League against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City than any other team.
It's mad.
Can you believe that? It's 8.
It's hilarious.
I mean, it's mental.
Yeah.
Step up, mate. We step up.
Incredible. Yeah, under multiple different managers, I might add. Yeah.
Mourinho.
Including Nuno. Yeah. That's twice we mentioned Nuno now.
God, what are we doing?
Craig, very quick one. There was a penalty shout in the away end. I'm not so sure a lot of the Spurs players actually shouted for the penalty, but on 39 minutes, Mohamed Kudus. Can you talk us through that one? Was it a penalty? No penalty?
The foul on him?
Yeah.
From Trafford. Actually, I think I've got that. Yeah, it wasn't a penalty because it's clearly outside the box and it was down the other end. But it was definitely a foul. I mean, you can see there. I don't quite know why that wasn't even given. I mean, Jesus.
Did you see that Trafford handballed it outside of the box?
Yeah, before that, he knocked it with his arm, didn't he?
Yeah. The reason I asked Ricky is because the away end was up the other end, so we didn't see a lot of what happened down that end. So thanks for this picture there, Craig.
Yeah, but it was 100% a foul, as you can see there, Chris.
Yeah.
It's, I'm not quite sure why that wasn't given.
Would Trafford have been sent off, or would the defenders near him saving him?
I don't know. Is it double jeopardy thing? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you can say from that. I mean, both defenders are running that way. Stones looks out of it. I mean, if the ball had gone
red,
it's a tough one, isn't it?
It's a red.
Yeah, it's definitely a red.
But
anyway,
if the referee's not giving foul throws, he's not going to give that, is he?
No.
Again, because he's working for moonpig.com, sunshine. Do you know what I mean? He forgot his job tonight.
Yeah. Craig, let's stay with you. Talk us through the second goal. The referee gave 7 minutes added time at the end of the first half, and during that time, Erling Haaland missed an absolute sitter as well, headed over the bar. But João Paulinho made it 2-0, of course. Talk us through this goal, and it's great that someone like this, worked extremely hard today. He's got on the score sheet. He's not in the team to be scoring goals, but we'll take it. Yeah,
100%. I mean, ultimately, this goal came from a mistake by the goalkeeper, the bad pass into, I can't remember who was passing it to there. Was it John Stones, I think? And Papsar straight on it, intercepted. Wasn't a foul. I know VAR looked at it, but it was nowhere near a foul when you went back and looked at it. And then broke to Richarlison, who was actually unlucky not to get a shot away, but it just rebounded sort of off him. I think he got a toe to it. And then Paulinho comes in and bosh, 2-0. Just really good. You can see from the picture, sorry for listeners on audio, you're not going to be able to see it, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Spurs players. There's 5 in the box and 6 in an attacking position. So that's more than half the team there up there pressing Manchester City. And you could say it was an unforced error, but our pressing led to that goal. And if we weren't pressing, that goal is not going to happen. So brilliant from Tottenham and a really good finish from Paulinho.
Absolutely.
Craig, how are you feeling at half-time 2-0 up? Because I've got to say, I thought that at half-time, Pep Guardiola would give his squad a real talking to. They would come out, have chance after chance. We would then soak up a lot of pressure. On 48 minutes, City had a great chance. Paulinho with a fantastic block. We talk about goals sometimes, but some of these blocks and some of these tackles are just as good. But how are you feeling at half-time? Because I thought, it's a weird one, because as the players were going off the pitch, the Spurs players seemed to be so proud and happy with themselves and their teammates. They were patting each other on the back. And I thought, we don't normally see that at half-time where players are almost congratulating one another, saying well done, because you're only at the halfway point, and you feel like there's a big 45 minutes to go. But clearly some of those players thought that, we'd got the game won in the opening 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, I think anybody who's played football will know that feeling when you come off at half time, and you get the feeling that you've got the team in the palm of your hand and you've done the job. You've scored 2 goals. You've defended really well. You got a clean sheet so far, and that's probably why they were happy with themselves, because it wouldn't have escaped them that you're at Manchester City. They've still got players like Haaland that can score a goal in a blink of an eye, but they probably at half-time knew that they were controlling that game. And I did read on X a little while ago that Thomas Frank actually mentioned the PSG game at his half-time team talk. So I think that's probably good that he mentioned that, because they might, you don't want to get carried away, think the game's won, City come back, bang, before you know it's 2-2. So just a really good attitude, I think, from the players today. We didn't start slow in the second half, which we have previously. You've seen it. We've started slow, and we started the game reasonably fast today as well. So everything about today, the energy, the commitment, everything was really, really good. Yep. And long may it continue. I mean, I'm not going to get ahead of myself and say, talking about next week, we'll probably come on to next week, I know, but Bournemouth at home, 3, if we can beat Bournemouth, first international break, 3 wins. I mean, perfect start to the season, but let's not get carried away, because I'm always telling people for doing that. I've put the kiss of death on it now. But no, do you know what I mean? That's the way you've got to think. That's the way clubs think, big clubs think. So hopefully we can get a couple of players over the line as well. So that would be good.
Mr. Norwood with me at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next week, so I'm sure we'll be toasting a 3rd win next week, won't we, Rick?
Well, I mean, mate, you know what happens when we're at the ground, mate. Like the pod afterwards, Craig, you better be ready, sunshine. You better have subtitles for me. I'm going to tell you now, my bottom lip's going to be drunk. So I don't know
what is happening.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
You followed this stupid football club for long enough, all of you, that you should behave.
Come on, Charlotte.
Going on here?
We're enjoying this moment, Charlotte, and I hope you can understand now why these podcasts are so long with Ricky on them.
They're even longer when he's had a drink, let me tell you.
Listen, Charles, just to let you know, I'm teetotal 7 days a week until I meet Chris, and then
it's always Chris's fault. We know the drill. We know the drill.
I think the viewers and listeners know exactly whose fault it is. Ricky, let's come to you. On 56 minutes, Mohamed Kudus cross to Richie. Couldn't quite get there. A minute later, good move from Tottenham. Brennan Johnson shooting over the bar. A couple of minutes later, another good ball to Walter Johnson. John Stones with an exceptional block. And then a couple of minutes later, free kick into Richarlison, who headed over the bar. A minute later, cross from the right. Richarlison headed over the bar again. And I've written down here, 67 minutes, Mohamed Kudus on fire, attacking, defending. I tell you what, he was absolutely sensational. He has been sensational in every game that he has played for Tottenham so far. How on earth, and I'm going to ask you this question again, how on earth have West Ham sold this player for £55 million? He is going to be an absolute star for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Chris, I've said it so long, man. I've wanted Kudus at Tottenham for a very, very long time. I saw him when he was playing for Ajax. I love Dutch football, you guys know that, but I saw him playing for Ajax and I was just like, wow. And then I saw him in the World Cup as well. And I was just like, this guy could be something special. And when he went to West Ham, I thought that's it, because we don't really do no business with West Ham. We know this. So I thought, that's it. And I was upset. And we brought in Brennan Johnson at that point. And I wanted Kudus instead of Johnson at that point, But everything in life happens for a reason. He came in, he had a dynamite season for West Ham, and then they started messing about with him. Different manager, different systems, different trust levels as well. And I think that he got really fed up. I think it's a fantastic deal that we've got for 55 million, because in 3 competitive games, I think he's doubled his money already, or very close to. You can see what a difference that he brings to this side. And it's his all-round work rate. It's his all-round game. The fact that he's prepared to get back and help cover on the right-hand side with Porro. and then kind of even that it's not just like he does the defensive side and then the up front side, you know, doing magic on the wing up on the right hand side. It's also that middle in the midfield. How many times does he drop into midfield as a pass option, or there's trouble happening? You know, Man City were closing us down and he was there as the option, and he's like, give it to me. And he'd run him ragged, and he did many a time today. So there is so much quality that is coming from Kudus. I still don't think we've seen the best of him as yet. I still think he's warming up right now, which again is exciting times for us. But he is loving the responsibility of being the number one right winger out there. He's loving what Thomas has said to him, you know, before he signed, as he signed, in training. The responsibility that is on his shoulders, I think he's loving too. And the way that we are playing with him in the side works at every one of his strengths. A player that we've needed for a long time. You know, one of my criticisms of the wingers that we've had over the last couple of years is that they're very easy to be moved off the ball. And I'm talking about just a quick barge. You know, Tell, Odebear, Brian Hill, Johnson. There's been times that whoever's been playing has been easily barged off of that ball when they're in the attacking areas, and you can't get the ball off.
He's so strong, isn't he?
He's so strong, and you know what? It's not like he's 6'9" either, as well. You know, he's of average height. I say that being the same height as him. Do you know what I mean? But he's of average height as a footballer, and you can see that how he uses his body and all of the strength that he's got to not only protect the ball, but to use it in the right way. I'm so happy we've got him. And again, another indictment to the club to go and get the players that Frank wants. Go and do what we all want right now, which is to get players that are ready to hit the ground running and are ready to, that want to play for Tottenham, but are ready to take up the challenge of what playing for Tottenham is, and going up against some of the best in the world and coming out on top. Because what's happening right now is next level. And again, not going to get carried away. Yes, I am.
You are.
But but it is really exciting times. Really exciting times. Give the manager a couple of more tools for this side, and not only can we be unpredictable, but we could be phenomenal.
Just goes to show, though, doesn't it? You know, because you hit the nail on the head, Rick. Buy two quality players, and they're quality. Kudus, Paulinho.
Yep.
But it also comes down to attitude and character again.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm so happy that Ange's main focus last year when recruiting players was their character. You know, who they are as a man, who they are as a person. You know, the morals that they bring to the table, and we've continued that. Thomas Frank is another one, and he has a famous no dickheads policy. Not my words, his words. No dickhead policy. Do you know what I mean? No player in there that is too egocentral or big-headed or doesn't want to work for the side or think they're too good to be at Tottenham or think that they're using Tottenham as a stepping stone. He doesn't want any of those things. And I think that has continued with the likes of Paulinho and Kudus coming in. Let's hope that continues with the additions that, fingers crossed, we get through the door before the window shuts, because again, super exciting times. If we can get not only quality but character in there, I think that is a winning combination.
I feel like we should probably say as well that it's a very different side. It's a very aggressive side now as well. And Thomas Frank says that a lot, actually, about aggression. And I feel like that has been a huge plus in the games that we have played so far. Charlotte, let's come to you. On 70 minutes, Man City have another chance blasted over the bar, which is a huge cheer from the away end, as you can imagine. Mm-hmm. And then they had a free header goal. It went straight to Vicario on 76 minutes. City did have chances today. What did you make of City? And do you see them as title contenders? How can you ever write, a team that is managed by Pep Guardiola, and particularly when they didn't win a trophy last season, which Pep and all of his, regulars, they wouldn't have been used to that. Who are the title contenders this season for you?
I'm sorry with my answer, but is that lot from down the road?
Don't do it, girl.
I'm sorry. It's that lot from down the road. I think the lot from down the King's Road as well are going to be involved, and then Liverpool and Man City. I think, look, Man City were very good last week. Look, what's the surprise? Tottenham beat Man City at the Etihad. We know how it goes. This is not a surprising result. This is just what we do, right? It's fine. This doesn't mean they're not in it. But look, what's the rule? You can only lose 4 or 5 games and win the title. About that, and maybe even less now. And I think they are going to be under pressure. I think they can probably brush this one off. You know, it was a weird game where Erling Haaland didn't get it in. Rodri's header that you were talking about, the free header? That was a bit of it was his first touch, wasn't it? He had a header right at goal and probably should have scored. They did make chances. Another day against, there'll be plenty of teams they beat, right? And what will come down for City is whether they can beat the other title contenders. Those sort of 6-8 games against the other title contenders will define their season. They've got so much quality in there. When they're bringing on Phil Foden and Rodri and, whoever else they were bringing on, like the quality and the strength in depth they have is...
Yeah, incredible.
He's always going to sit in quite a long way, isn't it?
Charlotte, I've absolutely raved about Mohamed Kudus since we've signed him, but one thing that he does need to work on is his throws. Did you see the throw in the 80th minute?
He's not replacing Super Kev with his long throws, is he?
It was almost a foul throw on his own, wasn't it?
That was loopy, and he's not taking those anymore. Kevin Danso, Lucas Bergvall. There's a few others a long way ahead of him in that list, isn't there?
Craig, of course, Thomas Frank made a number of subs today. 4, in fact. He is a big advocate for subs. He normally makes 5 in these games, but he made 4 today. Dominic Solanke and Odegaard coming on for Johnson and Richarlison on 78 minutes. Bergvall coming on in the 86th minute for Kudus, and Danso coming on for Polinia in the 91st minute. For him, I expect with the squad that he's got, it is all about rotation. Looking ahead to the Bournemouth game next week, would you expect him to virtually go with this same team that he played today?
Well, we haven't got any midweek games, so you haven't got Champions League or Cups or anything to sort of distract you or have to juggle players around. Barring any injuries, I don't see any reason to change it. The old adage, you don't change a winning team. And hopefully we'll be able to get a couple of goals up against Bournemouth and then bring on the subs a bit earlier just to give the players a bit of a rest. But there's no real excuse if we haven't got any injuries and they've had a good full week of training, then there's no reason to change it at this point. And it's just about getting points on the board. So I can't see any argument as to why you would want to change the team. Mm-hmm. I think that team should be good enough to beat Bournemouth, in my opinion, as well.
Craig, lastly, talking about the game itself, Dominic Solanke, who came on as a sub, had his shot saved in the 93rd minute by Trafford, and then Brennan Johnson with the follow-up saved. It could have easily been 3-0.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it was a great turn and shot by Solanke, and on another day the follow-up goes in. So probably Dominic Solanke. As a striker, you've seen your competitor, if you like, in Richarlison play so well. He must have been itching to get on that score sheet, but he wasn't to be. But he's good. We've said, you've got another number 9. You've got 2 number 9s that are playing really well, competing against each other for that slot. It can only be a good thing. So. I'm sure Solanke gets on the score sheet on another day, and hopefully next week. But like you say, Brennan Johnson unlucky not to get second there.
Right, I've got a 4-minute clip of Thomas Frank saying it was a real team performance, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the transfer window, our next game against Bournemouth, and the Champions League draw. So bear with me. 4-minute clip of Thomas Frank.
Thomas, well done. 2-0 at the Etihad. It was the absolute definition of a team performance. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I can try to add a few more words, but it was a real team performance. So happy with the performance and of course the win. I think the first 35 minutes was even, but City slightly on top. Us, staying in the game, keep trying to do the right thing, showing great mentality. The goal just changed a bit of momentum. And since the goal, I think actually we were on top more or less throughout the game, or the rest of the game. Second half, exceptional. The way we came out, still want to play, still open up. The way the high pressure, front-footed, really aggressive, I think was very, very difficult for them. That I'm very proud of. And then, of course, the clean sheet mentality. Clean sheet is so important because then it's easier to win football matches. And we work so hard on it. Big credit to the staff, to the players. Matt Wells done a top job on that side. So the high pressure, the middle pressure, the lower block, defending the box, mentality to do blocks, so important. So last year was 6 clean sheets, I think, and we need to keep going.
Everything has to be right here, Thomas. Not 95%, and you're not winning. You might draw, you're not winning. What are the aspects, if you can tell us, that make the difference between a solid, strong defensive performance here and going out there and winning 2-0 and having 12 shots to their 10?
Yeah, that's a good shout. I think the mindset from the players was exceptional. I think they were brave in phase 1 and 2, which we wanted to do, so we could keep the ball and progress a bit, and let them run when possible. And then I think that mentality and aggressive determination, the high pressure, keep going, keep locking on, keep, even you're tired, they're also tired. I think that was the difference.
And I mean, you mentioned the clean sheet mentality. It must be so difficult, but what are the most pleasing things out here? You spoke about being brave. You've got to be brave at City, right? What other aspects of this performance are you particularly pleased with?
But I think a couple of things that also, I think second half we kept going for the 3-0 goal. It's not like we didn't want, or we just wanted to, see the game out. The team effort. There's one moment in the game that I think is defining and hopefully can be defining for a good season. It's very early days. That is, I think, second half, I think around 80th minute or whatever, is a transition. Just see 10 players head down, sprinting back under, and ending with Mickey's block shot. Wow, that gives me goosebumps because we want, one top corner, beautiful play. That we want as well. But that bit, sprinting under, that will win you a lot of football matches.
And just finally, look, you can't pick players out of a performance like that. But you just said it's Palhinha's first Premier League start for us. You've got that protection, and he scores a goal today. I mean, how big could he be for us in there, Thomas?
Yeah, but also I think at least I was asked a lot of questions about transfers yesterday. So I think it's very positive about Palhinha and Kudus. Two great signings and a great performance from both of them today. And Palhinha, top, his effort, his defensive mindset, and then on top adding, I think he had a top block that he celebrated just early doors. And yeah, exactly. And then a goal that's exceptional. So yeah, very happy.
Craig, let's come to you. We've heard that word again, aggressive. Of course, Thomas Frank is very happy after today's win. He also mentioned the word brave that he uses a lot as well. And one thing I wanted to mention as well that we haven't said so far is how we had a 2-0 lead at half-time against Manchester City. Many teams would have come out in that second half and just soaked up the pressure and not have gone for a third goal. We had many chances in that second half for a third. That's pleasing to see, isn't it? Especially the way that us fans like to see our team play and go for it.
Yeah, he made a point of saying that, didn't he? That he was pleased that we were going for the third goal. Exactly what you said there, not sitting back, and a bit of aggression, and the pressing was still there. Where we've even seen us do it, and that's what used to anger Ange Postecoglou so much is go forward. You sit into this defensive sort of block and try and see the game out, and you're never going to get away with that with City with all the attacking talent they've got, of course. So he was very pleased with that. It was interesting. It was very interesting as a whole, that interview, and Thomas Frank just seemed so calm and collected. You wouldn't actually know if we'd won 7-0, 10-0, 1-0, drawn, or whatever. He doesn't seem to get too carried away either way, and that's what probably I like about a manager, to be honest. He won't celebrate until the job's done. He realises this is just one game.
You're a bit like that on the podcast, though, Craig.
I am. That's probably why me and Tom, I like Thomas Frank. Actually, now I'm getting really to like him because I can't get too carried away. I think I've learned that. You do learn it as you get a bit older. You learn not to get too carried away until the job's done, and that's what. But hey, I fully admit I got carried away with the Eze deal, and that that's probably why I don't do it. Is because the feeling of falling flat on your face, that feeling was horrendous, and I don't like it. So I try not to get too carried away. But I really like to see that measured sort of interview from Thomas Frank. What he's basically saying in a nutshell in the interview was very pleased with the performance, very pleased that the players attacked when I wanted to, kept going. But basically, that's just one game. That's in a nutshell what he's saying. There's still a load of work to be done. So, and he probably didn't want to get carried away too much because he wants signings in still. So we don't want to say to Daniel Levy, "No, I'm fine. We've beat Man City. We don't need anyone." We clearly do still.
Yeah. Well, like I said,
I think a great highlight that he mentioned a couple of times, Craig, was the defensive element of it. The Mickey van der Ven, the Paulinia block. He mentioned those things that were being celebrated.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that the one thing that I can see with a balanced play, I think this is the first time I've seen us so balanced in a very long time as a team, as a unit. But with a balanced style of play, that the defensive side is as important as the offensive side. But we didn't need to drop back into two banks of four and just try and hold on. We don't need to do that because we do have a balanced style of play. The times that we are most dangerous is when we are going for a goal. Do you know what I mean? And that's when we're solidified. It's what Charlotte said earlier as well about PSG. The one thing that we stopped doing after 70 minutes when the subs came on against PSG in the Super Cup was stop going for it. And I don't know whether that was energy levels or, technical levels, because, PSG, you could argue that every single one of their players are £100 million players. You could argue that. But we ended up conceding that. But today, like Charlotte said earlier, and like you mentioned, Craig, about him saying it in the dressing room, let's keep going. Let's keep pushing. Because the more we're pushing, the more we give them things to think about, and the more they're worrying about their own goal rather than coming at us. Do you know what I mean? And having a free reign to come at us. So what I noticed in that was that he highlighted the defensive element as well as that offensive element. And having that balance is key. Do you know what I mean? It really is, especially for us.
Well, I'm definitely with Ricky. I tell you what, we enjoy these wins when we get them, because last season, it was difficult to record some of these podcasts, and some of the longer podcasts were normally when we've lost, not when we've won. So I've enjoyed this one.
Me too.
We have got a final few questions, but I tell you what, it really has been the perfect day today, because the men's first team obviously have won 2-0 at the Etihad against City today, but the Spurs women have won also away at Arsenal 4-3. So many congratulations to them. And the under-18s earlier on today beat Norwich City 2-0 away. So, 3 Spurs teams have been in action today, and we've got 3 wins. So absolutely brilliant. Now, I have 3 final questions for all of you, and I'm going to group them all together. Ricky, I'm going to start with you. So the transfer window. I know we've spoken at length about the transfer window in recent weeks and months, but what do Spurs need to do in the remainder of this transfer window to really back Thomas Frank and get an even bigger smile on your face and give you that feeling that we can fight on all fronts? And those were the words from Daniel Levy, Vino Venkatesham, Johan Langer, and Thomas Frank. We want to be fighting on all 4 fronts with the competitions that we are in now. The next game, Bournemouth at home next Saturday. How do you see that one going? And of course, Champions League football will return to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this season, and the Champions League draw will take place on Thursday, the 28th of August at 5 p.m. I am really looking forward to that. How do you feel?
Play that music, boys.
Can't wait. So how do you feel like we will get on in the Champions League, Ricky? So 3 questions: transfer window, next game Bournemouth, and the Champions League draw.
Transfer window, we've always had a tricky one, Tottenham fans, and I think every one of us are fed up of being the joke and being embarrassed. So what I said after Morgan Gibbs White is that if you want to stop this straight away, it's to slap some big money down on a big player that shakes up the league and shakes up the squad as well. I think it's really important for the players that are in our side right now, you know, Romero being one, to see quality players coming in and to know that we are actually going for it. That really shows ambition. You know, yes, character, like I said, is really important. And maybe somebody like Eze didn't have the character for Tottenham Hotspur. Who knows? Everything for a reason, right? So instead of being the butt of the joke, or instead of letting the league continue to kind of, now that we've won a trophy, we've won our first 2 games, you know, they wanted to make us the butt of the joke after the Super Cup, but there's no way that we was. You know, we thoroughly deserved to win that game. And on penalties, it's a lottery. But we took arguably the best side in the world with 9 Ballon d'Or nominees on that list to the brink, you know, and we were the better side. We were the better side overall. So, okay, yes, their quality shone through when we conceded space and we let them play. But lessons to be learned. But they wanted to make us the joke after that. You know, they wanted to make us the joke after Morgan Gibbs White, but that's Mr. Marinakis, and you know, he's looking after Nottingham Forest, so that's a different argument. When it comes down to Eze, you know, it was our dilly-dallying. Craig has said it many a time that dilly-dallying, it often costs us a player, and we knew, you know, for a long time how long Cooley was going to be out for. When Maddison gets the injury, you know, we knew that he was going to be out for the season. Before Maddison got the injury, we was looking for a number 10. And, you know, Maddison going down should have accelerated that and should have made us go out there and put the money on the table and get it signed, sealed and delivered. We haven't. You know, the Gooners are trying to compare Eze to Sol Campbell, which I have no clue. I think you're just clutching at straws here. Look, well done to the Gooners for putting the money down in a couple of hours and acting like a big club and going to get the deal that you wanted done ASAP. Yeah, I'll give you credit for that. I don't want to, but I'll give you credit for that. But this ain't no Sol Campbell scenario. This is more like a Willian scenario, you know, where, and even then William was at the medical before he went and signed for Chelsea. So this is closer to that than it is, but it's still an embarrassment. It's still a joke. It's still a slap in our face. And, you know, this season, my goodness, if you're ever going to do it, the board, if you're ever going to do it and go out there and get these players, they need to go out there and spend 100, 120, 130, 40 million on 2 or 3 players that really do bring the level up and really do give this manager more tools to play with. And when we are in trouble, when we do have injuries and stuff like that, that we can bring a quality player off the bench or a quality player into the side and our levels don't drop. You know, we can adapt to the strengths of a new player, but our levels don't drop. And if you're ever going to learn the lessons of the last 2 seasons, just the last 2 seasons, where we've had astronomical tsunamis of injuries, don't go in just because we've beaten Burnley and beaten Man City and go, now we're all right. Don't do it. Don't hope for the best and pray that the worst don't turn up, because the worst has turned up 2 seasons running. So now it's time to plan for the worst and go out there and get the best. This is what we need to do in that transfer market. And we know the positions. We know the positions. Right now, I've heard that Vuskovic, we're holding on to Vuskovic right now because we don't know who we're going to get in the transfer window. Frank wants another defender so that we can adapt in our play and adapt our starting lineup. So we're holding on to him until we know what's happening there. But the manager wants a centre-back. Manager wants, we can see, he's been crying for a dynamic, strong number 10 in there as well. You know, someone who's got physical ability as well as technical ability. And then he's been looking for a winger that can absolutely change the game. So it's out there. We know what we need position-wise. I'm not going to mention any names right now. You know, I'm sure we'll do that on the transfer deadline day show.
Okay,
but,
Ricky.
Right now, go out there and get the best.
Give me a quick yes or no on this. Savinho, would you like to see him in a Spurs shirt? And would you pay the money that City? Well, they've rejected offers, but everyone has a price. If Spurs put an offer in of more money, he may just come.
I would love him at Tottenham. The thing when it comes down to the money, you've got to remember when dealing with City, another team that really doesn't like Tottenham. Not only do we beat them year in, year out at their ground. Sorry, just needed that. Not only do we beat them, we're Pep's bogey team. Harry Kane, Sonny has destroyed him before. Also, Levy, with the 115 charges that Man City have got, Levy has been instrumental in trying to implement those charges too. So there are many a factor and many a reason why Man City won't deal with us, or that they're going to ask for more and proper hold us over a barrel to get one of their players. Yeah. If we want one of their players, if we believe, if the boss feels that Savinho is the man, then we're going to have to take that hit on it. And we might be paying 5 or 10 mil over what we need. But yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, we're going to have to go out there and pay that money to get it over the line. So yeah, I would take him. On Bournemouth, I think again, it's going to be another dynamic team that we put out there. I think Bergvall might come in, and we might drop out a Paulinho or a Bentancur in there and have a bit more attacking freedom up front. But I see that going 3-0 for me. We're loving the clean sheets right now. I think it'll be a clinical 3-0 and a win. And the last one, what was the last one, Chris?
Champions League.
Champions League! We're back in the Champions League. Come on, you Spurs. Oh, my gosh. Do you know what? It's going to be a totally different experience for us as well, being in Champions League, because it's all knockout phases right now. So there ain't no group phases. It's all like, individual teams, left, right, and centre. So every single week that we turn up to the Champions League is going to be a barnstormer, and it's going to be an exciting time. But just like Charlotte, I can't wait to hear that music and wear my black shirt with the badge on the sleeve and go into that game, hoping for the best and believing that we can bring out the best in those games. These players can't wait for it. They cannot wait for it to show them what we're really about with a fully fit squad, and with fingers crossed some new additions in there as well. So can't wait for us to be there. Can't wait to hear that music, and can't wait to get our first win. Come on, you Spurs.
And hopefully we can get back into our hotel room.
We're not allowed to mention that story. We said we wasn't going to talk about that.
Okay.
All right. That's another show.
Charlotte, don't ask. Don't ask.
I do not want to know.
Charlotte, what's your answers to these three? And I'm hoping that you'll give me a few shorter answers than Ricky.
I'll try.
A short answer. Everybody knows it.
We do need something. We probably need a left back support for a Doggy so that Jed can play on the right a bit more. I'm not that bothered about Savinho. I don't think we need another winger. We seem to collect them. I would like, a more creative number 10 player, something to replace James Maddison. I think that should be more the focus. In terms of Bournemouth, I don't know, it would be quite Spursy to muck that up, wouldn't it? But there is something about the strength and the organisation and the power of this team that you've got to go into that game feeling confident. I think Bournemouth have some good players, but I think we should be able to overcome that. At home, strong team, organised team. I'd hope we get 3 points there. Champions League, I'm just buzzing. I can actually watch the Champions League draw again on Thursday, and it's actually us. I'm excited for us to be in the new format of it. It's just going to be great. Who knows? We showed we could, hold our weight, hold our own with PSG in that game. So hopefully we'll be able to have some good nights, some glory nights at White Hart Lane as well.
Charlotte, I've just got to pick you up on one thing there. You mentioned that word that I absolutely hate, Spursy, right?
Oh, sorry.
Now,
I'm right.
Do you believe that Ange Postecoglou winning us the Europa League has got rid of that Spursy tag? And if you don't, will Thomas Frank get rid of that Spursy tag?
I suppose in some ways, winning the Europa League was the most Spursy. To lose 22 league games and then win the Europa League is about as Spursy as it gets, isn't it? Surely. Couldn't be more Spursy.
Yeah, but that parade, doesn't it just squash all of the Spursy tag?
I hope so. I think we've got a bit more of. I think there's something in the squad now that they know how to get over the line. I think that is important. All joking aside, I think that does make a difference.
Someone's just said, is Chris and Ricky a couple talking about hotel rooms? No, it's a joke. We'll explain it one day. But I think that Ricky and Charlotte are out tonight, so I'm not be seen. I'm in Manchester. So, Craig, give me 3 quick answers.
Yeah, it's just down to seconds now, isn't it? Transfer window. Look, we've spoke about it many times. I think we still need enforcements. I would personally definitely take Savinho, but I think we need more than that. I do. I think we need 3-4 players in, or we should have already had them in, and we haven't got them. I don't think we're going to get them. At least I'm amazed the ball haven't gone out or doing something behind the scenes, and then we're going to see this absolute monster signing coming through the door. But it just seems too late in the transfer window for that to happen. But hey, you know, it might still happen. Daniel's in the chat said Savinho and Paqueta. Paqueta would be a great signing. I'm not sure West Ham fans could take it if we raided them for another one of their stars, though. I think they seem to be down in the dumps enough at the moment. As for the Champions League, looking forward to that draw. Look, we're definitely going to face 2 of these sides, PSG, Real Madrid, FC Bayern Munich, Internazionale, Borussia Dortmund or Barcelona. So we're going to face 2 of those definitely.
I mean, we're definitely getting Bayern Munich.
So you know, strap in, because they're going to be some tough games, and of course 4 at home, 4 away. I won't go through how it's all drawn. I did do a video on it, but then I watched it back, and I actually confused myself, and it was actually quite boring listening to the draw. So I'm sure you can find a better explanation than anything I could do. But we're going to come up against some very, very tough teams in that Champions League. So let's see how that draw goes. But it's going to be exciting to be back near that music at the stadium. And finally, Bournemouth. I agree. I think we could easily put out the same team as today. Could easily see Bergvall and Solanke coming in, or there's just two of the names I can think of off the top of my head. But I think we should have enough to beat Bournemouth and before the first international break, which is really annoying, but have 9 points going into that international break. So yeah, a great start for Tottenham. Really good win today. Can actually watch Match of the Day again tonight, which is fantastic. Couldn't do that much last year. And come on, Leeds.
Do you know what? I can't wait for the Champions League draw. Back in the Champions League, back in the big time. But of course, as we've said so many times, on so many occasions, the manager, if he wants to be fighting on all fronts, we need a little bit more help in the transfer window. So let's hope that the board can deliver, 1 or 2 real gems this coming week before the deadline closes. And the Bournemouth game, I can't see nothing but a win. And I tell you what, to go into the international break, 3 wins out of 3, and it might even be 3 clean sheets. I tell you what, that would really be the perfect start to get everyone excited again. Craig, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a good podcast. It's been a positive one, and we haven't had too many positive ones of late, which is great. So thank you. Where can people find you?
Yeah. It's been always good to talk about a win. Never gets boring talking about a win, does it? At Dearman9 on X, if you want to give me a follow. Let's hope we can get that win next weekend. To 9 out of 9 would be fantastic.
Ricky, I will see you next weekend. Really looking forward to that. Where can people find you? What have you been up to at the moment? What you got coming up?
Oh, bro, I can't wait for next week to be in the ground with yourself and watch the boys live. I cannot wait for that. Again, thank you for having me on. As always, thank you to all you beautiful people around the world that tune in and like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I don't never see the comments, but I love you for it at the same time. I know Craig does. What am I up to? So, what am I doing? Okay, so just launched a new podcast with one of my brothers, Darren Hart, aka the Heartman, called Tea Talk in Tottenham. So you can type that in all one word into YouTube. We've just recorded our 2nd episode, but it's really our first, because the first episode was a pilot. We left all the bumps and scrapes in, but we're getting there little bit by little bit, where we look back on the last 10 to 14 days of what has happened in the world of Spurs, with a little bit of positivity, a little bit of critique, but a lot of fun at the same time. So check that out. I've also just launched Cameo. There's been so many people that have asked me to jump on Cameo before. So that you and if you don't know about Cameo, Cameo is it's a message service. So if you've got any well wishes, if you want to say "Come on, you Spurs," or you want to send any birthdays, anything like that, you can jump on Cameo right now. Type in Ricky Norwood and you'll find me, and I'll be connecting with you via video message, which will be amazing. So looking forward to that. And then with you, brother, cannot wait to not only be in the ground, like I say, but to be covering the game on the pod straight afterwards. There's so many exciting times ahead, my friends. So many exciting times ahead. There's a couple of more things on the burner, but until they're dropped, until they're confirmed, I will let you know. But as always, an honor and a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much.
We might need to give Craig the warning of doing all of the match notes next week. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe it's a good heads up, bruv.
I've just got the, like, Ramon Vega vibes. That podcast, which still haunts me. You know.
Yeah. Charlotte, sorry about all these personal jokes. We'll explain one day. But yeah, it all involves Ricky drinking and it all going pear shaped.
I've got the vibe.
Yeah, you got it. Charlotte, thank you so much. You've been absolutely awesome. We would love to have you back on in the very near future. I hope you'd be up for that. And tell everyone what you're up to, what you've got coming up. And also, I expect I should ask you about the Spurs women today. You know, that's a big win.
Big win. So I cover Spurs women at lilywhitewoman.co.uk. It's all the stuff that's going on there. Chris and I often hang out in the press box watching the girls, so that's great. Head over to @CharlotteAHenry across social media. That's where I am. And theedition.net is where I write about the crossover of culture, media and sport. And my newsletter's there. I'd love you to sign up. I've got a book coming out in October called Streaming Wars. Everything about the world of TV and streaming. So I hope you pick up a copy of that, pre-order a copy of that. And yeah, it's been great to be on here. We're all on a high, so it's lovely.
Well, thank you so much. And we look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Absolutely.
Craig, Ricky, Charlotte, thank you so much for your time. Great talking about a win. 2 wins from 2 for Thomas Frank in the Premier League. Absolutely brilliant. Let's hope it's a third next week against Bournemouth. And a big thank you to everybody who subscribes to the YouTube channel, because this week we hit 185,000, which honestly just blows my mind every single time when we look at these numbers. So thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. And it is, of course, an extended weekend here in the UK, a bank holiday. So we're going to enjoy it. So you enjoy yours, and we will see you again very soon. Until then, come on, you Spurs.
Come on!